Welcome back to another video. It's been a minute since we have did a Wingbits video. I don't know how long it's been, to be honest. I'm too lazy to go back and look. But hey, y'all should expect that by now. I even had to go back to one of my old school t-shirts because it has, on one of these arms, it has Wingbits written on it. Hey, it's the little things. And it reminds me that I need to keep going to the gym. I seem to just be spinning my wheels because I've been going back to the gym for almost 3 weeks now. And I gained 3 pounds. So, and I had to put the nasty hat on, even though I'm waiting for Vaseline to make me a new one. But, it's got the Wingbits on it. And just a reminder to everybody, I am the godfather of the Gulf for Wingbits. Because I have stations all around the Gulf, and I have the entire Gulf. And it was a lot more funny when there was a lot less stations now. But I know there's some of y'all who have, I thought I was crazy with 15 stations plus the 5 that I have with some friends, plus the ones I host for friends. It's 20, 25 stations. But I know some of y'all have passed me up. It was easier when it was DIY. But hey, look, before we go any further, please like this video. Take half second right now. Look down, see that little thumbs up, hit it for me, please. That's going to help Wingbits out, Solana and stuff like that I have tagged, and get the word out about Wingbits. We need to push this project as much as possible to get it mainstream, and we need to do our part because we know the Wingbits guys are doing their part. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. People subscribing has gotten kind of flatlined. I usually don't let that stuff bother me, but it's nice to strive for the next level, 32,000 subscribers. So everybody who has subscribed so far, thank you very much. So quick thing is also I have the Discord server. The Discord server has been getting very, very popular. It seems to be picking up even more speed now. Got over 200 people that have joined it. Thank y'all very much. I see some very familiar names, and I appreciate that those people have come into the server. And I like the Discord server because it has all these different projects and stuff that we all discuss, and people have their own channel, can discuss. And I even don't mind. And I rather like the fact that people from those projects that are running those projects come into my Discord and come into that channel and speak to people as another place for them to speak, back and forth and stuff. So if you haven't joined my Discord, there's a server below. Make sure you verify once you get in there. And remember, nothing we talk about in this video is financial advice. We have no idea what the future is with Wingbits or any of the projects that we discuss. Last but not least, on all my videos, majority of my videos, especially this one, I own all the tokens or most of the tokens that we talk about in all these projects. And I won't give a heads up if I have to sell them, if there's a catastrophe going on, or I like what the price action is or anything like that. I don't want to be accused of anything, but I have that disclaimer in the description below on every single video I do. And occasionally I do put this just to make sure everybody knows that, I got bills to pay. All right, so with all that out the way, hey, we had a AMA today with Wingbits. The Wingbits team came on Discord AMA and had about a 50-minute conversation with everybody, telling everybody what's going on. I will be dead honest with y'all. Know I'm honest with y'all. First of all, y'all know Wingbits is my #1 DEPIN project. Is the one I have the most faith in, the one I put most of my effort or almost all of my effort into. I really don't keep up with helium anymore. Years ago, I did a lot of work to get 20-something helium miners going, but don't worry about those no more. If they go offline, they go offline. Wingbits is what I see the most potential in, and we're going to discuss that. And I'm going to try to keep this video not an hour long, but there's a couple things I want to say about my feelings towards Wingbits that we're going to kind of get to during the video and when we get to the end of what this AMA was about. So y'all stay tuned for that part, please. But saying all that, even though I'm very positive, you also know I'm going to be honest with y'all, and I'm going to critique the hell out of it. Y'all know that. Y'all expect that from me. And if I don't say something negative, y'all going to think I had a stroke. And I don't want y'all to think that. Today's AMA, I don't want to call it a nothing burner, but I see some people describing it kind of like that. Majority of stuff that we talked about was, or they talked about, we just listened, was kind of just, I won't say rehashing, but just going over a lot of the changelog stuff so that y'all were aware of it. Actually sat there and went over all the changelog stuff. Hey, and some people I'm sure weren't aware of it. Some people don't click on changelog. So as a way of them talking about why they changed a couple of things, what some of those changes were. And it was good. It was good to hear their version You know, they got to explain a little bit more on some things, and we're going to go over that in a minute. I did take some notes. Funny story. Y'all should know me by now. I sat there and took a steno pad, front and back, big yellow steno pad, full of notes today. And then when I got home, I realized I left it at work. So I had to get somebody who has access to my office, who's working nights, to go into my office, take pictures of said steno pad, and text me the pictures. The problem is it's so dark I can barely read it. But my chicken scratch as it is, I can barely read. So, but we're going to start going over some of this stuff. I'm going to try not to make it too boring. I'm going to try not to read it word for word. But y'all want to know what's going on? There was some stuff additional to what just the change log, but there was nothing like real exciting. You know, the big question, I'm just go ahead and answer this big question for y'all so that y'all don't think I'm leaving y'all hanging. The biggest question everybody's asking is, was a TGE date announced? No, it was not. So if that's the only reason you're watching this video, I hope you don't turn it off. But you know, if that's the only reason you're watching this video, thank you for watching and see you on the next video, because that was not announced. He gave a time frame, and I don't even want to mention it. Why do I not want to mention it? Because I have mentioned the time frames before and look like an ass. I mentioned that time frame on several videos and stuff and look like an ass, and I'm not going to do it. On one of these AMAs a while back, he had said last week of August, first week of September. People asked how hard that date was. He said it's a hard date because they have contracts signed and stuff. Come to find out, it wasn't. They passed that up. Why? Because the contract that they were going to sign for it was a shitty contract, and that's the only way I can put it. I ain't worried about the censors at this point, because that's what it was. And I'm proud of him to a point by not just automatically signing a contract to get a contract done, because he said in the long run it would have hurt the project. So I appreciate that Robin and the team would put that first. And then, you know, they talked about another, you know, end of summer in another AMA. I think it was might have been the last AMA. I can't remember. It all blends in. But then he discussed it would be before the, you know, summer Q3 2025, before that ends. Well, Q3 summer 2025 came and TGE was pushed off. I did videos on this. I don't want to rehash it all, but again, that's why I only want to mention what was mentioned today in the video, in the AMA, because you can't put no stock into it. They've even said even the dates that, or the time frame that they mentioned today, could always change depending on what happens with another contract or with potential customers. So let's go ahead and get started on what this AMA was about. Now, I will tell you that some of the stuff that was on changelog, I didn't see this on changelog. So there are some things that I even learned that I did not realize was changed or what's going on. So I will say that first. So one thing that was changed recently in changelog was that there's new logic for ground flights. So I really don't know what that means. That's kind of over my head, but they are using a new logic algorithm, whatever you want to call it, for ground flights. There is now a heartbeat immediately after restart. When we did some kind of work to our device, we would have to wait 10 minutes at least sometimes to see if our device was back online. You know, when we plugged it back in or something, you would have to wait 10 minutes, sometimes 9 minutes, sometimes 8 minutes for the dashboard to do a new heartbeat. Now there's a heartbeat immediately after restart. But also, if you have a DIY device that does not have a geosigner plugged in, you will never get a heartbeat. Geosigners are required. Apparently in the past, you could still see a heartbeat for your device, but if you didn't have the geosigner, it just wouldn't, it would say no geosigner. Now you won't even get a heartbeat. It won't even show online because the geosigner is required. Again, look, I know there's a reason why they do things. You know me, I have to critique everything. I don't know how I feel about this one, only because there have been times where my device was online, but the geosigner was having some type of issue, an install issue, a connectivity issue, something like that. I wish it would show me the heartbeat still. So I knew at least my Pi was connected to the network. The SDR was working. It was getting flights. It didn't say no GPS or geosigner missing on the dashboard. I wish it would say that. Who knows? It might still say that. I don't know. But I'd still kind of wish it would show me online and just show me what's going on if a geosigner has an issue. The owner host claim now claims to the current setup. A lot of y'all know that. We spoke about that in the video, but I think what it was is in the past, we've had some owner host issues. I know I had that with when I had to change owner wallets. I was using a Solana wallet for everything, and I said no, I need to separate it. I wanted to make my own Wingbits Phantom 12 words account, and I changed it, and it was caused some issues, and now it claims the current setup. The only thing I'm trying to find out is when I see the Wingbits amount. I talked about this in the video today, and it shows like I have this million wings. I'm pretty sure that that is the total for all Wingbit stations, all my Wingbit stations. The total that all those stations of wings, that is not taking into effect what I'm supposed to be getting with my percentages. Meaning I have 4 stations that are hosted by other people. Their percentage isn't coming out that big amount. But again, saying that out loud, I realize that's probably my own fault because I don't do claims all the time. Again, I had some problems with the wallets, so I don't claim. I think I might have claimed once or twice. I don't know, but I don't claim. So maybe if I claimed, I would see what the difference is. I don't know. They also want to do, there's an overview page bug that didn't have wallets or something like that. I can't read my handwriting, and that was fixed. There's new GIS satellites. It's GIS. I told you I can't read my handwriting, guys. I'm sorry. Count on the bottom of the statistics page that you can see. There's a reminder on the rankings. It's based on importance of stations to Wingbits. Apparently, this still comes up where when you see a ranking, you might be in a top 10 ranking, or say, hey, I'm getting 800. You know, if you're in the isolated area, you might be getting like 700-800 stations, and you're not top ranked, which I think you probably would, because your station top 10, top 12 is based on how important your station is to Wingbits. Not really, you know, I have a tower on my buddy's tower. I have a station on my buddy's 400-foot tower. If y'all seen it before, when there's good skip going on and propagation, I've gotten like 140 hexes sometimes. I cover a quarter of the United States, from literally from almost Cuba to Tennessee, Texas, Arkansas, Oklahoma to Florida. But it's never ranked that high. Why? Because if that station fails, there's plenty enough stations to take that slack. Your rankings are based on if you have a station that they can't afford to lose, that's what they're concerned with. So also, when you go to maps, and I guess I'll show y'all a demo real quick. These are my stations right here. This is why they call me the Godfather of the Gulf. And I'm actually about to hit, that's probably the most south I've ever gotten. But anyway, so there's a new way of where you can share, if you want to share it to family or to host or anything like that. And I'm planning on doing this also, just haven't had a chance yet. But if you go and zoom in on one of your stations, and then when you click on one of your stations, in the URL, which I don't want to show you my URL, but in the URL now changes. And it's a URL specific to this station. If you want to know what this station is doing, the URL changes to that station. And then you can copy and paste that URL, give it to the host, give it to your mama if you want to show her so she has something to finally be proud of you about. And you can see your coverage. So like, you know, I can go and do coverage for my station here. And I can go and now I can take this URL, copy, paste it, send it to my mama and say, look, you finally, after 50 years, got something to be proud of me about. So, yeah. That's my station. So like the hex changes. I think that's a pretty cool thing. It's an easy way of changing hexes. I mean, sharing those station details without having to share more than that. So also something we discussed also, if you look at this, going back to like say this one, people lost some hexes. We discussed this on Discord, discussed some video, but we talked about it on this AMA, so I'm gonna go over it again for those who missed it. In the past, this Grand Isle station I have done here probably would have had a lot more hexes on it. A lot of hexes that probably would have came up here and even down here and stuff like that. because before this Grand Isle station covered, it would touch Texas in this Texas border. But now they have removed any hexes that you're not going to get rewarded. You have to have a minimum message number or data points per hex to be rewarded for that hex. And, you know, even though like this one, my hex ranking's 25, I'm still received 112 messages in there. So I'm still am going to get rewarded for that. Normally you would see these hexes out here, but it fell below the threshold for my rewards. So that's why now you're only going to see hexes that you are going to be rewarded for. So another cool feature that was released, and I'll be honest with you, I missed this one too in the changelog. That's why we're going over it right now. So you go to your maps, and you know I took away my stations because I just want to see the flights. If you go and you click on a flight, you now see, of course, you see the trail, but instead of having to scroll through all the information, now it's got tabs. And while you can scroll through some of it, shows altitude history, which I think is pretty cool. But also you click on performance and it shows you the altitude, the ground speed, barometric rate, shows you navigation, and the technical. And it's all tabbed out now. I think that's badass, to be honest with you. I just think it's a cool deal. Same thing. You go to performance, tells you it's at 39,000 feet. It shows you performance, track, latitude, longitude, and technical. And ladies and gentlemen, that's what some of these companies are paying for. And we're going to talk about that shortly, about the amount of companies that they now have and what has gone on with the industry and with some other companies. So bear with me on that. Now, moving on, they have a big announcement coming up this weekend. I have no idea what this announcement is. I don't think it's going to be TGE, but I've been wrong about TGE for since we ever thought we were going to TGE. Without saying too much, I'm trying not to say too much because this did not come from the team. This came from a different AMA on a different project where somebody spewed a date that they thought they knew what the hell they were talking about. And another AMA, again, a helium type business. I don't want to give out too much because it's not right. So I don't want to push out too much. Without Wingbits talking to them, anything. Way they come up with this, they used the magic 8-ball, but they even said that there was going to be some type of like AMA or something this weekend. For this, again, this was like 2 months ago, so don't put any stock to it. I distinctly asked and said, hey, do you know that, because I was contacted by some of y'all, that this group mentioned the date during one of their lives. And I was distinctly told, the answer I got was a sarcastic answer. Have you ever heard or seen it? I just need to break in real quick. I said, I'm editing this video and I realize I keep saying that AMA this weekend. I meant this other company, this other forum. They mentioned TGE this weekend, not an AMA. We're already in the AMA. TGE this weekend, which was not true. Go live on a weekend, which I haven't, and nobody else has either. So I was told, there's your answer. So I don't believe that's what this announcement is going to be. Maybe it might be a TGE date, but again, just like I told y'all for 5 minutes when I was talking too much in the beginning of this video, I'm not putting, if that's what it is, I don't think that's what it is. I don't know what it is. It could be another collaboration with a project. It could be a new vendor for stations after all the problems we've had with Hyfix. And I'm gonna tell y'all, without telling y'all too much of my personal business, and it's not, I don't know if it's right or not, it's affecting me. So to me, it is part of my business. Y'all not the only ones having problems with Hyfix. You know, I'm supposed to get paid for, and that's not what I do videos for. Y'all know that. But hey, I got a son in college, a daughter's a senior. Right now, seniors need money for everything, every day. They owe me money for some time now. Hyfix. I have to beg them and beg them, beg them. I just got July's payment like a week ago. Now I'm dealing with August. Should have been paid 17 days ago. So don't think that this is an isolated issue going on with just Hyfix and stations. They're and to be fair, they have moved around some employees. Some employees have moved on with other projects or with other places of employment, and they are doing a lot of shuffling right now. At least that's what they're telling me, and that's what's affecting us YouTubers, influencers, whatever you want to call it, getting our little percentage of when y'all use our code. So don't think it's just Hyfix screwing with Wingbits or anything like that. Again, I have no idea what this big announcement's going to be. I have not gotten any hints. You know, they're too big to be giving me hints, I guess, or something like that. But hey, that's why it's supposed to be a surprise. Big announcement coming up this weekend. So one thing that Robin did announce is that they have added even more customers in the last week. And there's over a dozen people that have are getting that inject data from Wingbits. So they have, for people who are questioning about paying customers, and is this you know, is this possible that this is even going to take off, because who's going to pay for stuff that's free? We have debunked that over and over, but I still hear that by certain, you know, influencers. And I guess it's people who missed out, people who just have piss poor attitudes, worse than mine, and they're and then just missing out. You know, they're adding, we already know about customers in the past. They've talked about it in the past AMAs. They already had those customers that were using this as a secondary ingest of data, because they were signed up with contracts already with primaries, and they gave us this kind of like hint that maybe when those contracts need to be renewed, they won't renew. I don't know. But either way, they added more. Currently, if I wrote this correct, Wingbits offers 80 to 85% coverage of the busy flight paths, which is more than any other market leaders. That means that's more than ADS-B Exchange, more than Radar Box, more than FlightAware or any of these other ones. What he also mentioned was 4 years ago, FlightAware was sold to a large company. Recently, there was another sale of another one of these large ADS-B companies that get, you know, who are trying to make it appear like this is all hobby stuff, you know, like these ham guys that are all also into. And look, that's how I know about ADS-B also, because years ago I did a FlightAware station. You know, they're getting, these big companies are buying these flight ADS-B hobby companies, whatever you want to call them. One of them recently was just evaluated during the sale of $500 million. $500 million. And think about it. They pay their participants zero. These fools are just still thinking that this is some simple little company that's just ingesting data and just like it's a ham project or something like that. I guarantee majority of them don't know that they're all being puppeted and used by a large parent company now. But my point I'm trying to make is those companies were valued at $500 million. And yet you still have people saying there's no market for this and Wingbits ain't going to make it. That's idiotic. I'm trying to say, without getting in trouble, but I'm trying to like stress that across to you, that if you hear people saying that, slap them in the face, because they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Of course, I don't want to put no violence on nobody, but verbally slap them in the face. Call them a moron, dipstick, whatever you want to call them. They've also, Wingbits has had to add more devs to the team, which shows that they're building more. They're not just resting on all the stuff we see they're doing. But he did mention that almost all their concentration at this point is going to TGE. He mentioned also that people keep asking about CEXs, me included, because I still believe, despite what some of y'all say, and I know some of y'all argue with me, I still say to get this the most available, if that's the words I need to use, in front of more people who want to invest that know they're coming out of this, to make it the easiest for them to get to it. You know, they have accounts set up on CEXs already. You need to be on CEXs. You know, regular Joe Blow investor does not want to go and download Jupe and use Jupiter or some kind of DEX. I think it's because of accounting, purchasing. You know, I've read this before somewhere. Where I read that, I don't know, but I read this back when we were talking about something to do with Phantom. I'm trying to remember what project it was. But your regular Joe Blow investor is going to go on CEXs. Now, what Robin said, and I 100% agree with him, but it's also not worth jeopardizing your bankroll or your budget, because some of these CEXs want a crap load of money or token to list. Now, I will never call Robin a liar, because I have heard that from a lot of people, a lot of projects, and people also mentioned that on the chat today. So I'm not calling him a liar. Please don't take it the wrong way. But I still question that when you look at Binance and you look at some of these larger CEXs, they have some crappy coins on them. Some crappy no-name meme coins. I find it hard to believe that they're paying $500,000, $1 million or more to get listed on that CEX, unless they're giving them a large pool of the tokens. But it still has to be some other way to get on these CEXs, because some of these no-name projects are on there. There's some no-name projects on Coinbase, which to me, I always thought Coinbase was the most stringent. So, and not Coinbase Exchange, I'm talking about Coinbase. So, I don't know. But CEXs is something that they're still working on. No guarantees, because again, I don't blame them if they want all kinds of money. They talked about the grace period plus 5% unlock of tokens. We discussed that on the video the other day. It's also on the recent announcements. Please go read it. Make sure you read it. Make sure you understand it. But they talked about that all of our testnet tokens that we're making till today, we're still making 20% on those because we're in testnet. So again, the longer we don't go to TGE, the more 20% we're going to get on all those stations. They originally said all these testnet tokens weren't going to come to us until they're going to be spread out over 12 months. Now they're saying that they are going to give us a 5% unlock at TGE, but also starting, I think it might be starting soon. I got to go find a date, but there's also going to be a grace period. And that's a way to watch, to make sure that, watch for any bad shenanigans or anything like that going on. So it was detailed out to me. So I want to make sure I get this straight, because some of y'all have asked about the 7-day grace period. Why are they doing it and stuff like that? The grace period is used to identify a few things. Potential cheaters. So instead of them getting their tokens immediately or anything like that. So I'm trying to think what other projects, like Hivemapper and Demo. Demo, you're making your tokens throughout the week, but you get rewarded that Monday. So you're technically getting rewarded that Monday for the week before. Hivemapper, I'm not that familiar with. But both of those collect information, but then reward weekly instead of daily. One with a 1-day offset, the other with a few days offset. So potential cheaters, reward calculation issues due to a new base or EPR changes, bonus rewards, or whatever like that. Data issues, since there's a complex flow from reception on their end to the final data table used by rewards engine and stuff like that. So I guess if it's a screw up, if you had to go pull back tokens from people that got rewarded too much or there was something wrong, and redistribute those out, there'd probably be a lot of questions asked. So with them having this kind of temporary waiting period, it prevents any kind of issues like that. So I will say that last week I reported that I was kind of uncomfortable with the 7-day thing. I really don't understand it. Listening to them kind of describe it, I'm okay with it. So, like you said, in the end, you're still getting rewarded daily. You just rewarded for 7 days ago instead of yesterday. This will only affect people onboarding new for the first 7 days. They mentioned again, for the people who are here in the beginning, the OGs, as I call them, in 2023. I don't know if they were still doing 2024. If they were, you know who you are. If you weren't, you know, don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But in the beginning, we had to pay for hexes if we wanted to cover those hexes. That model stayed around for a couple of months. We had to pay, like, don't quote me on it, $20 per hex. Me with my buddy's tower, I was paying for 25 hexes. You had a choice if you wanted your refund right then and there, fill out this form, or if you wanted your refund in wings whenever TGE came. Majority of us all took, I want the wings. Originally, they had made an announcement about a month or two ago that those refund for hexes would happen over 12 months. Some people, including myself, had issue with that. They saying it was in the fine print. A lot of us missed that fine print. I have no problem with them spreading my million testnet tokens over 12 months. But to me, the reward means the refund means the refund. So, and look, I'm not planning on trying to sell all these tokens, but just to make sure I get that out there. I'm not going, you know, somebody made a comment earlier, and look, I enjoy everybody in my Discord. I know I'm going, taking a detour here, but just follow me. I enjoy everybody in my Discord. But this mentality that we're getting in DEPIN that I'm trying to fight off, but I seem to be the only YouTuber fighting this off. That all DEPIN is becoming a joke. All DEPIN is companies trying to, and look, I know I'm breaking the third and fourth wall at this point. I know that I've told a lot of y'all to go watch Tech Hustler's video, and Tech Hustler discusses this in their video. He's not wrong, and some of these people are not wrong, but to paint with a broad brush that all these DEPIN projects are doing this is bullshit. And I'm sorry for cursing again, but that's the only way I can say it. People coming even in my Discord. Again, thank you for coming to my Discord. Please participate. Please help people, whatever you want to do. But don't come in here saying all DEPINs are scams and they're making money off, and then you're going to dump all your tokens as soon as you get them. I've said in videos in the past, the same people who complain about these projects have all these tokens that the price just dumps after TGE. While you're sitting there selling, dude, go look in the mirror. You don't have to sell. We need ROI. As soon as we can get ROI. There have been some projects that tokens have gone up after. If you would have sold your grass tokens right when it came out, that was like 60, 70 cents. It's worth almost $4 a couple of weeks later. Now, because of shenanigans they got going on, you know, a year later, and they ain't rewarded anybody in a year, now it's back down to 70 cents, but it's neither here or there. I way digressed. I totally forgot what road I was on. Missed my exit. So refund for hexes will be within the 7 days. They're trying to seriously go into, let me see if I can find it on the map. He kind of talked about this area right here. He understands, well, Robin understands that there are some areas that you're not gonna be able to put stations in. China and different things like that. You know, some of these countries, North Korea, you're not putting this up. But there are some countries that this should be available, that he would like to see more stations go in. He was talking about Southeast Asia and even the Middle East. Middle East does have some coverage, but they're trying to expand. Again, I don't know what areas exactly, but this is something that they are doing. Now, one question that did come up that we have had come up before was that, what about stations over the ocean? We're not providing coverage for that. Is that going to hurt the project, hurt business or anything like that? And what he told us was no, because you don't have a lot of flights that go over this. That, look, you do have flights. Don't sit there and say that's bull. But again, 90 to 95% of all flights happen over land. And from what I understand, talking to a guy who literally is a pilot, when I asked him this question about 2 p.m. today after the AMA, he said that's 100% correct, that most of these places are not using ADS-B data over water because they know that there's no receivers. So your airlines with these engines and stuff like that, who have to maintain all these logistics and stuff like that, they're using some other type of proprietary means or something to get those communications back and they're not using ADS-B. So what he was saying is, first, there's no market. People really aren't looking for that to buy. They're looking for this other stuff, but they're not looking for this to buy. So, you know, that's one reason why they're not concerned with it. 90% of customers want overland. So that's what he put. I just need to read my notes. He also said that it would cost millions by putting satellites up, whether that is renting satellite space or whatever it is like that, or leasing satellite, or paying for many small CubeSats to cover water. And it's just not it's cost prohibitive. And that's why nobody else is really doing it. Again, also, your competition, your FlightAware and stuff aren't doing that either. So people asked them, what is the current satellite? If you remember, we had a big deal about current satellite that they're using now, or they launched a satellite in the space, whatever it was, and the current satellite is used to validate data. And so apparently that is one thing that sets Wingbits well far ahead of the game of any competition, is nobody's validating the data sent in by these free devices that are being used, free uploads, what do you want to call it, non-compensated uploads by the competitors, the FlightAwares, ADS-B exchange. So anybody can put it up anywhere. They're not being compensated. So if people have their device go offline, they'll just get to when they get to it. You and me, who are running Wingbits, we're gonna be like, hell, I need to get my device back online, or I'm losing money. So, you know, if there is a need for that, he said one of the questions is going to be is, you know, is it worth it to partner up with somebody or do their own satellites? Is there a need for it? Is there customers that are looking for that? And then they'll cross that bridge when they come. So I think that was a pretty good answer, the way he handled that. Because I know that question has come up in my Discord and in their Discord also, was, you know, about overseas and stuff like that. Hyfix stations, he said, are getting swapped out. I know that they have people who are getting swapped out. Some getting swapped out quickly and rightly. I'm just gonna be honest. I know there's people who are still waiting for devices to come back. I know they still got devices that are working last week and now this week are still failing. So I don't know when those people bought those stations. I'm knocking on wood, because one of my Wingbits WB200 is in the serial number list of possible affected stations. And as of right now, it is still working with no problems. It was in a saltwater, harsh environment, thunderstorms, raining all the time, right on the coast. I showed y'all where it was just now on the map, and knock on wood, it's still working. I'm gonna venture off for real quick. All right, so in my Discord today, Who Fought It, who's been a guy who's been in my Discord since the beginning. I appreciate all the help he's always putting forth and sharing everybody. But there actually was a announcement as far as retrofitting your devices if you haven't had a problem with. In one of the previous announcements, they talked about how if you have a device within this serial number list and it is not affected and it's still working properly, that they will give you a device that's supposed to help protect against any kind of electric harm, ESD harm, or whatever like that. And I thought, me and a little bit of RF, I do know, not that I know the inside guts of these stations, but when you kept hearing that it was the LNA failure, I was thinking there was something wrong with the grounding of the LNA or circuitry of the LNA or something like that. And when I saw what they came up with, part of me felt righteous, because I've been preaching this since the helium days. People made fun of me. I preached it early in the D-scam days when we had D-fly stations and people didn't want to hear it. Then I preached it in Wingbit stations with DIY stations and people didn't want to hear it. So while I feel righteous on one point, part of me really questioned if this is really the answer. But who knows? Hyfix might have solved it. We'll see. If I was a bet man, I know which way I'd bet. So in here, they discussed that if you GeoNet station, whatever, you go to the GeoNet official Discord, and they talked about here's your serial numbers that were possibly affected, and there's a retrofit insert available. Now you're thinking like I'm thinking. To me, I'm thinking. If you're thinking like I'm thinking, who knows what we're thinking? But an insert to me is like what I was thinking was there's gonna be some kind of metal or some kind of grounding adapter, something that's gonna go around the LNA of your Wingbit stations. And I question about, well, now we're gonna have people taking their on their kitchen table with butter knives or something, because not everybody's technically sound. It's okay. Some of y'all know how to count. I don't. And I know how to take apart some electronics. You might not. Some people don't have tools. They might use a butter knife, steak knife, ice pick if you need it. And I'm worried about people going into these devices with their gaskets and stuff like that. So I'm like, how in the hell are they going to retrofit this? So this is the manual insert. Now remember, keyword insert. All of this is a polyphaser. And ladies and gentlemen, I've been doing RF systems for a long time, including some worth over $1 million. I've never seen a polyphaser that did not need a ground wire to it. The polyphasers that I'm familiar with, and look, we can talk about the Cadillacs of polyphaser world, like I'm showing you right here. This is what we use in our Motorola repeater systems. They have some type of, they connect by the bulkhead, and they're getting a ground from that. You can see that they have some that even come with the grounding wire with them. Even these that are straight bulkhead are going to be grounded out by the bulkhead. Now, some of y'all are familiar with this. If you've been following this channel for a long time, I did videos strictly on this, but I have been suggesting these back to the helium days. People said, I don't live in a lot of lightning area. Let me tell you something. Y'all can put all the lightning the rest of y'all want on your devices. If your helium device, Wingbits device, or anything gets a direct lightning strike, this is going to be toast, just like your device is going to be toast. But it's more for electronic static discharge. Like how when you're getting in and out of a vehicle, or you rub your hands on a rug or a balloon, and then you touch something and your hair starts sticking up, or you feel that little shock. That's electronic static discharge. They're thinking what it is one example is, okay, you don't get a lot of lightning. If you have a lot of dry air, especially like the desert, like Eric and them who's in Arizona, and you get a lot of dust going through the air, dry dust builds up static electricity. It goes into your antenna, down your feed line, and can go into your receiver. If it's not grounded properly, not to ground or something, you could potentially get an electronic static discharge that could damage your device. Even these, if you look at Amazon, what do they have on top of them? They got these little plugs right here, these little adapters or wired nuts, whatever you want to call them, clamps that go to a ground wire. Now, again, this is for devices that are still functioning properly. If you're having a device that's already failed, you have to go through contacting them, RMA, and get that done. This is not going to reverse the damage that has already occurred. But all they're basically saying is, you're going to get this thing from them. There is a chart that you have to fill out. And I might do a separate video on this too, because there's been a lot of people asking about it. But you're going to disconnect the top antenna, which for some of us, we already have. We put a more righteous antenna on it, which I need to bring up to later. But the 5.5 dB on it, did a video on it. My results were 25-30% better than with the stock antenna. But we're going to talk about it in a second, because I think we might have found an issue. But anyway, so I have a adapter on it for N to a TNC connector, which I will still say to this day, whoever decided to put a TNC connector on this antenna needs a swift kick in the ball sack. Please find out. Please let them go to one of these conventions I'm going to, conferences, and say, hey, that's the guy from Hyfix that decided that we were going to put a TNC connector on top of this and not an N connector, because I'm going over there and give them the swift punt in the ball sack. Stupid. Anyway, because all of our antennas are N connectors. All of them. Helium, the ones, 5.5, 1090 antennas for ADS-B, they're all N connectors. I wonder if they did it just to give us be a pain in the ass about it. But anyway, this adapter is going to be TNC. So you got to figure out, it still should work whatever adapter you're using for 5.5. So they want you to disconnect the top of the antenna from the unit and have the insert ready. Have it ready, like as if it's like a speed thing. Have it ready, like it's a pit crew or something. Come on, man. Who makes up this? Attach the insert to the antenna. Ensure this is firmly connected. Attach the antenna back to the unit. Ensure that this is firmly secured. And then connect your power and turn the unit on, period. They don't say anything about any kind of ground wire. Now, is this possibly being grounded through the housing, through your little pole in the bottom? Possibly, but they don't know what you're connecting your pole to. If you're connecting it to a wood 4x4, it's not getting grounded. Your power line going back into your network in your house is grounded. I wouldn't want it going through there. You want that ESD going through the shortest distance possible. You're supposed to put a polyphaser. If you got an antenna on your house, whether it's a CB, a ham antenna, a Motorola antenna for a trunk system, or ADS-B. The antenna goes out here, feed line, and before it penetrates into the house or the building, that's where you want your polyphaser at. Now, some of the more expensive ones like we have a polyphaser at the top where the antenna is to ground, and we have one at the penetration point. But I'm not trying to give a lesson on that. This don't have any of that, which makes me question stuff. Hey, I'm glad they're proactive in something. Let's try to spin it positive. So if you need one of those adapters, you can go right here to the Discord. This is on Wingbits Discord now. Mike posted this about 2:20 p.m. Central Time, where if you have these serial numbers, and you're going to need your serial number, you fill out this form. When you go to this form, it's going to say all this stuff. Get my fat head out the way. And you're going to need your unit, your order number, address if it doesn't match your order number, which station do you have. You're going to need, if you have an MGW310 unit, you need your WB serial number. If you have a WB200, you put that number here. If you have multiple stations, you put all multiple serial numbers there. If you have one or multiple MGW10, they also want your SN-W number. If you want SNG-W number. My station is 2.5 hours from my house. I think I have a picture of both of these. I know I have a picture of one of them because I had to look it up to see if I fall in the serial number, but I gotta go find it now. But you fill out one of these. Again, if your station has not been affected, if you have an issue where you're only getting 1 or 2 flights now, and you have one of these affected stations, you do not fill out this form. You do not get one of these things. If you don't fall in the serial numbers or anything like that, you're not gonna be able to get one because they want your serial number, they want your order number, so you can't get one of these and try to sell it. But this is the adapter, the insert that we've been waiting on. Okay, well, that kind of wraps up all this. I just started editing this. Before I did this last recap at the end, I wanted to do all the editing to see what I forgot and like that. I apologize. I did not realize this was going to be 50 minutes. Again, I'll start talking too much. But as y'all can see, there's a lot of things going on with this project. Even Robin mentioned all the conferences, the conventions, crypto conferences, and all those different things that they're about to attend. They're going to be pushing a lot of Wingbit stuff. So you see that this team is working hard, constantly moving. And that's why I expect not financial advice, no guarantees, but I'm putting my faith and effort into this project. And you see that. So there are still people who are buying these stations. You look on that map, and if there are no stations around you for 100 miles or so, or even if it's only like maybe 1 or 2 within 100, 150 miles, this is an ideal project for you right now. Now, if you are in some of these other areas that have 20 stations around you, you might want to try to find a more open location for you. The more saturated area you get, it's not it's not really that worth it. But if you are interested, I have my code here. The code will also work at Hyfix, if you want 10% off there also. But you can get these stations. I see people using my code, so I know these stations are still being purchased. About a 75 to 25 ratio, 75% the WB200 versus 25% of the MGW310, which is the GeoNet combined unit. But GeoNet's probably my number 2 project I have the most faith in right now. So if you want to look into that. But thank you all for watching. I appreciate everybody who sat here. If you watch this whole video, I'm kind of doing this like unofficial poll of my longer videos. If you caught this entire video, please let me know in the comments below. I'm trying to keep a little toll of who's watching all the way through, and I appreciate it. Tuesdays and Thursdays, especially Thursdays, I've been doing lives. Last night I stayed up Monday night. I do a project overview of all the projects I'm in right now. I stayed up to 2:30 a.m. by the time I edited it and uploaded it. 2:30 a.m. Had to wake up at 6:30 a.m. So last night during the live, I think I did more yawning. I apologize for that. It was unprofessional. I don't know, y'all expect anything different from me. So tonight and tomorrow, I'll make sure I'll do some kind of Monster energy drink or something, some more caffeine or something like that. Hopefully won't be staying up this late tonight. So tomorrow, Thursday night, will be our live. But I have several videos I have planned out at least over the next 3 or 4 days. There's a lot of changes coming in, some different projects that I want to go over. Those won't be as long, but this was a lot of stuff. Wingbits, I want to bring this AMA stuff to y'all so y'all can kind of get the whole recap and my opinion on some stuff, because that's what y'all come here for. Make sure y'all join my Discord. Make sure you give a thumbs up like to this video. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. We got a lot more content coming up about these projects. Thank you all for watching. See you all next video.